There's an old saying that necessity is the mother of all invention. And in my experience, some of the coolest, most innovative products have been invented to solve very specific problems and needs. I love that process of innovation, where you try and create a new solution that doesn't exist yet. It's the creative thinking, the problem solving, and brainstorming different solutions I find super fun. But it's a whole next level when it comes to making that thing a commercially viable product that you can profitably launch to market and customers are going to buy it. Being able to manufacture something at a price point that customers will pay, the logistics of being able to ship your products at an affordable price and, fulfill orders. What standards, if any, do you need to test for and comply with? So my guest today is Regan Merka, who is the inventor and founder of Burleigh Wagon, which is honestly one of the coolest products ever. The Burleigh Wagon is a wagon, it's a stroller, it's an esky cooler, and it's something that's definitely making family outings better and way more fun everywhere. And Regan joins me on the show today to share her journey of innovation and growth from the seed of an idea to a brand that won a deal on Shark Tank and that is now available both here in Australia and in the US. You're going to love it. It's a wild ride. Welcome to the show, Regan. It's fantastic to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, been hoping to get you on the show for a little bit. We've got some fans of your business, your brand on our team here. So,
Aw.
shall we start out by getting you to introduce yourself and what's your business?
My name is Regan Merka, and the business is Burleigh Wagon.
Burleigh Wagon. I mean, I was doing a little bit of digging around online and checking out what your brand is all about. And I mean, such a fun website to start with. Lots of
Aw,
bright
thanks.
colors and people looking like they're having a whole lot of fun. But tell us about the product.
Well, I guess I designed it because I just needed something a bit more kid friendly. My kids are the type of kids I'm sure, like most, families encounter, that really did not want to ride in a stroller. So I was just pushing it like a double pram, empty a lot of the time, with bags sort of hanging off the back, and one toddler going in one direction, maybe into a store, the other one's begging for like a lollipop. And I just want them to sit down and be strapped so we can kind of get on with the day wherever we're going. And they just weren't having it. They hated it.
Uh,
So,
Too active.
yeah, I just wanted something that they liked to ride in, but also, did a bit more functionality that made it a bit more user friendly for us as parents as well. My husband always had the big esky on his arm, like loaded with the drinks and the snacks and all that. And I had, like I said, the empty double pram and all of the bags and change of clothes, nappy bag. Again, my kids would eat all the snacks that I thought were sufficient within like 5 or 10 minutes. And it
We
just
got
wasn't.
boys.
Yeah, so I just wanted to find something, and I couldn't find anything that we sort of were hoping for on the market. So that's kind of what prompted us to decide to make something ourselves.
Yeah, I want to ask you, what was your background before this? I mean, did you come into this with a existing skill set and experience about, because it's not
No,
a simple product that you've designed. It's quite
no. Oh, thank
complicated.
you.
Mm,
Yeah, just no, I studied psychology. I was pretty into that for a while, and then I had my two kids and obviously took a little bit of a break to have them. And I thought I would just be a clinical psychologist when I sort of went back to work. And yeah, I guess the struggle of the stay-at-home mom and wanting to get out to places that I used to like before having kids, the beach, the parks.
yeah.
My husband and I just loved to adventure long days, but it was quite different after the kids. And I was like, I couldn't just leave the house anymore. It was just the amount of stuff and the amount of, preparation to leave the house was just, it was ridiculous. And we'd get down to places like the beach, and I felt like we weren't even there for long. Like one of them needed to nap or a nappy change. We'd have to go back to the car. We'd forget something. Or, like I said, we didn't have enough food. So we'd have to go spend a bunch of money at like a fancy cafe on James Street in Burleigh. And so we'd pack it up and I'd get frustrated, or they were burning. They didn't have, sun protection. And so we just pack it all up, go back to the house, sand everywhere, drinks and spill, in the bags. just, and then I felt
Nightmare.
like I was cleaning up after the whole thing all over again. So
Yeah, yeah, it just makes
yeah.
hard work, doesn't it? Oh my God.
Yes.
So I'd love to ask you about the product development process with Burleigh Wagon because I mean, product, I love getting a little bit of insight into that development. It's such a creative process.
Yeah, I had no idea where to start. I just had an idea. We did go on one trip prior to COVID back home to visit family, and I thought, I'm just going to buy a wagon. I can't obviously find anything in Australia. This was before even, folding canvas ones at places like, Kmart, BCF. There was nothing like that even back when we first moved here. So I thought I would just go home and bring some fantastic wagon back to Australia, and everyone would be like, oh my gosh, where is this from? But when
Yeah.
I got one of the most popular ones over there and actually used it practically down at the beach, I just hated it. Like the tires weren't good quality. Like I said, it didn't have that functionality of features that parents actually made their day out easier. So I guess I started by just a good old fashioned Google search of, what is selling here? Obviously, there wasn't anything. What's selling in America? Is that the best that I could have got? Maybe I just got the wrong one. And then that kind of took me down a rabbit hole of, how do I actually make a product from scratch?
Mm.
What goes into that? I don't want to infringe on anyone else's prior art, patents and all of that sort of stuff. So it just kind of snowballed from there. The first step was finding an engineer because obviously I don't have that background to make what I wanted.
Yeah.
And it was much harder than I anticipated.
Yeah, it's so hard finding, those industrial designers and product development kind of experts. I think it's probably a little bit easier now than it was years and years ago because of Google, but even still, it's not a common discipline, I don't think. It's not like, you know,
No, there's not many at all. Yeah,
mm,
not many at all. And even if you've got a concept and a fairly skilled engineer, it's whether or not you can find a factory that can make it and at the cost that you need it for,
yep.
which is where we've struggled quite a bit. It was much more expensive to produce than what we anticipated, or
Mhm.
what obviously the consumer would then pay for the product. So yeah, we still struggle with that. I wish that we could make it cheaper. Obviously, we're not a big business, so that has a lot to do with it. So our MOQs are not going to be, those of Kmart. So that really does go into it. But also the budget backing us is we're just a small family business. So,
Yeah.
to scale something like molds or the way that they're produced could be millions of dollars. So there is a way that we can make our wagon effectively cheaper in the future, but we need to scale to that point to be able to, buy that effectively those molds and that machinery,
Mm.
which we're not there yet.
No,
So,
it's quite an exorbitant exercise. But, I imagine because it's such a multifunctional kind of product that, that complexity would add to the product development and the
yeah,
production.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So when was this? Where, like in the timeline, when were you guys going through this process?
It was around, we moved here in 2016 from the US. So that's kind of when hence Burleigh Wagon, we moved to a town called Burleigh on the Gold Coast, which is beautiful beaches, walking distance to the beach. And I'm not going to obviously drive my car and fight for a car park. So we were doing that awkward walk down with all of the stuff, and they didn't want to sit in the pram and dragging it down the sand and all of that. So that was 2016. 2017 is probably when I started sort of, digging around and looking at what that would entail. And I believe, well, we launched the product in 2019. So it took about a good 18 months for the engineering and the actual production of the product to get a prototype. And we dragged around this horrible prototype that was worth more than my current car is,
Oh
like
my
literally like a $50,000 wagon prototype. It was the heaviest, most awkward, and obviously didn't give me a good feel for what the product would be because it was a completely different type of material that was used. But it's more the sizing and making sure that it complies with safety and testing different tires on it, durability, all that kind of stuff. So we did that as a family with our two toddlers.
God.
So when people ask us about the tires, I'm like, well, I physically have tried 12 different varieties of tires and dragged my kids with those tires on all the different terrains throughout Australia that there are. So
Yeah.
if someone says, "Oh, why didn't you put, like a balloon wheel, like a pneumatic tire?" I was like, "Well, do you have 5 minutes for me to explain why? Because it's not a quick answer." A balloon pneumatic wheel is extremely expensive. So those are the ones you see on, for example, disability, those large, wheelchair devices down at some beaches. And those vehicles are usually, a few $1,000s. I mean, per wheel it's crazy what they charge for those wheels.
Mm.
But with that being said, they were only marginally better on sand. And when I mean marginally, like literally, it wasn't a huge difference that me or my husband could feel in getting it, down the beach. But they also did not perform well on other terrains because they're a bald, flat tire with no tread.
Right.
So
Not good
a
on a
flat
civil
tire
surface.
anywhere else, yeah, is not ideal. And nor is it good for safety when it comes to grip or, wagons flipping over or things like that. So
Mm.
because we wanted to make something quite all terrain and, very multi-purpose, that's kind of why we went with an all around, rubber tire. But that all of that, due diligence is very time consuming to test
Okay. Yeah.
all of those different functionalities of your product before going live to market.
Presumably some standards that you had to get tested to, like safety standards. I mean, what did you have to comply with from a regulation perspective?
So before we launched, there were none. It was just, which is kind of interesting.
It is,
And
yeah.
while we were in the process of making the product and manufacturing it, the ACCC passed a very significant law stating that anything that transports children in an upright position, so that can be tricycles, that can be wagons, anything that is designed for transport needs to meet very strict safety standards by the ACCC. And so we went, oh gosh, what is this? In the middle of production, how do we do this? It was a lot of luck, to be honest. And again, I think it was that sort of from the get go, I wanted to make sure that I'm making something safe, regardless of whether or not there was a governing body which again did not come into effect until our manufacturing
Right.
process. So very, very stressful, but we got lucky. I think it's because if you have a pretty solid vision, I think for what you want to create and what's important to you as your brand, and safety was really up there for me. It was a little bit of luck, but that obviously was always in my mind. But it is luck because those specific standards can vary even from country to country. So we passed here in Australia as a stroller,
Mhm.
which is difficult. And then we had to do it in the United States as well once we launched over there. So any country that we want to go into, and again, they're sometimes depending on the brand or what they stand for, they could just launch it, for example, as a ride-on toy and do a different classification. But for us and our sort of passion for, whether it be everyday families or families with disabilities, for example, which is what we're also quite passionate about. We want to make sure that we're giving the safest, best quality product that we can. So it slows us down. So our launch to the US would have taken, another brand potentially, a quicker to market. Took us a long time because
Even
we
though you're
tried to.
in there originally.
Yeah, that's right. And even just things that I guess the consumer doesn't understand. Sometimes people will see, a US family with 4 safety belts on their wagon. That's because same exact wagon passed for 4 in the
Mm.
United States, but only passed for 3 here in Australia. Same wagon.
Mm.
So it's just we have to do those, types of things to comply, which is
Yeah.
important to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, in amongst all of that, I mean, it sounds like there were quite a few difficult hurdles that you had to jump through. What was the hardest part of getting to market?
Ooh, gosh, I guess it was probably the safety of everything. For example, we have cushion seats that go in the wagon.
Mhm.
They have been offline now for an obscene amount of time, and we get question after question every single day. Like, when are they coming back? Please bring them back. It's all safety related. It's
Wow.
all safety related. So,
But
and
the
do I have
cushions,
to? for a cushion.
Oh my
Now,
goodness.
for example, I could just make them a cushion and sell them where the belts don't work with the seat. So you could just put them in there. But then the whole functionality of making it a stroller and giving that extra back support, especially for, children around that 6 month mark, I want them to be functional and make the user experience better. And so for me to add just simple things like the ability for the belt to connect with those seats and making little changes per country, it's exhaustingly like it's a long it's a long arduous process because that's not even our main product. That's just an add-on, a seat.
History, isn't
And
it? Yeah.
yeah, and it's taken a very long time. So we're getting closer, but it hurts, because I want to obviously meet that demand and get them back on the website.
So
And
they
I think
were available before, but not
they
now.
were available before. The reason we took them off is because, again, once we expanded to the US, we now have different configurations.
Got
So,
it.
for the two different countries. So, we want to make seats that we can sell in both countries that will work for everyone, and also for maybe two children to ride on one side. And
Got it.
also, we got asked a lot for, instead of the 3 point harness, the ones that go over the shoulder. So, a 5 point. So, those types of changes are big, and they seem small. It seems so simple, and then every time I go into a change, it's not that simple. So
I can also imagine, just the having had in my past corporate career, worked with a lot of government departments, the bureaucracy, if I can get that word out. It's
yes.
a lot. But I suppose it's good for the end user, knowing that you are taking the time to make sure it is safe and it's compliant and all of that kind of stuff. But I can only imagine how frustrating that
It's
is.
yeah, it is. And I'm like, why did I not make something like way more? But I guess until you're really in it, you're just in it and you don't realize these types of things. I just thought the seat would be not a big deal. We got asked a lot for, like I said, that different change in strap, but it could be off by a millimeter, literally, and it won't pass. So then you go, okay, I'm a millimeter off. How can I make the? How can it's beyond. And I'm not an engineer, so it's a lot.
I can imagine those conversations and maybe what doesn't get said in between.
I'm like, we're not doing the seats anymore. Forget the seats. And I know people want them, so I'm just trying to, see the other side, get them up, and look back and go, oh, that was a bloody nightmare.
Yeah, I know I've had so many conversations like this with entrepreneurs over the years, and they'll say something like, if I'd known it was this hard, I probably wouldn't have begun in the first place. Which
Yes.
we can all get to that. But on the flip side, I feel like you know it's such a hard thing for a competitor to come and do. So it's quite a nice big moat that you've got around your castle, and it makes it very difficult for them to
That is true.
take
You need a
part.
lot of startup capital, which we also didn't realize, again, just being a family business. So I thought originally it's not a joke. I said to my husband, oh, the kids are getting a little bit older. I just want to do something that can contribute to like the school fees or like the gardener or like just regular. It was really simple. I had a very simple request. I just want to do something on the side, and then just our whole life savings later. We had like an investment property in the US. We cashed out like our 401ks in the
Oh
US.
my
Like
God. Yeah.
we are all in. Like we have, we've invested absolutely everything, but I had no idea that that's what I was asking him at
Mm,
all. I that
yeah.
it snowballed, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, if I ever were to do something again, oh my gosh, there's so many different things that I think to myself, oh, like products that are, this big, and you can ship
Yeah.
them in the post and you can gift them to influencers. And,
Yeah.
if something is wrong and FedEx, stomps on your box, you can just easily send another one. We don't have that, luxury. And if something goes wrong and FedEx just kicks it, down a flight of stairs,
Yeah.
and it's damaged, it is a big unit to get out to somebody, and it can be quite costly. So it's all those little things that I'm like, oh gosh, but like you said, maybe on the flip side, it is something that would be difficult. Obviously we did invest, and I say invest in patents because it's just, gosh, that's a lot of work too. But even without that, it is something difficult to, I guess, get off the ground. It's not an easy choice that we made, an easy product that we decided to go after. So
No, no. Tell us about how you went about marketing the product and the brand when you did get to market. Because, like you said, you can't just easily send off 100 to different, brand reps or influencers or anything like that.
yes, it's so hard because there's so many people I see that I connect with online that I'm like, gosh, I'd love to get them one. I'd love to have them do a review or, and I can't. It's so difficult. Our costs involved with gifting, and then plus obviously depending on someone we want to work with, it's difficult for, their fees as well. And we just can't as a small family business. So yeah, I guess very, very early on in the beginning, I realized I couldn't launch something to no one. Like I couldn't just,
Need an
put a
audience.
post up on my 200 Facebook followers that are all American, like my
Yeah.
old life, and be like, hey, so obviously being new to Australia, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to speak to anybody and how I'm going to reach anybody, especially with how much budget you'd have to have on Facebook to reach the right people. And it's only getting harder and harder. So, yeah, back when we launched, I just started an Instagram page and I put up some, logo that I basically made myself.
Yeah.
And I started going into Facebook groups of moms and just sort of starting, chats and asking people about kind of if they've struggled with the same problem, and connecting with other people and sort of growing that account even before I had the prototype. And then once I did have the prototype, I started sharing about it and, sharing what we were doing with it and explaining, I guess, about the process for
Mm.
anyone that was interested. And yeah, we had it was a really amazing launch. We did a pre-order and we sold out.
Wow.
So it was enough to, you know, I guess get the word out there. And with that being said, though, it was a small MOQ. Like we're self-funded, but
Yeah.
for me, I was like,
It's
oh, that's
going though.
promising. Like someone
Yeah.
bought it. Like someone
You
someone
didn't
liked
know?
it.
It's always good when someone you don't know buys your stuff. Hey.
There you go. Yeah. So yeah, and then I just kept, I guess learning how to video edit myself and watching other creators. I jumped on TikTok really early on, I think it was during COVID,
Mhm.
and just started studying, I guess, content that I liked, or whether that's trending music or how I was going to edit. I didn't know how to edit any videos or do anything like that. So I just kind of kept playing around with it. And I feel like I just got better and better. And then the videos that did well, I was like, okay, let me study this video.
Yeah.
What is the secret magic of this video? Why didn't the video, just like it last week, didn't what's different about this video? So is it how many seconds it is? Is it the hook? It is the song? Did it have text on the screen? Did it not have? So I got really pedantic about analyzing what was good and what wasn't good. And then I just kept rinsing and repeating and doing the same thing over and over again to grow the account.
Amazing. That's lots of people that I work with are a little hesitant to get stuck into TikTok because they get a bit nervous about having to master the video editing and shooting videos and things like that.
But I mean, people think you have to show your face. I don't really I'm not super comfortable doing that. Especially as my kids also get older, it's they don't fit, and like obviously that we still take it for sporting events and things like that, or concerts, and we're using it in a different capacity now. But I can't shoot my prime demographic of people that would be interested anymore. I don't have toddlers. So
Mm.
yeah, it just got harder and harder as my kids got older, and obviously we're using it in a different capacity and maybe not the one that I'd like to show as much, during those years of when people would really benefit from the product the
Mm.
most. So, but yeah, I just keep pivoting. Like if something isn't working or this particular type of video no longer gets, X amount of thousand views, then I just have to keep doing something else. And I guess the platform is always evolving and changing, and you have to constantly keep leveling up your skills. And
Yeah.
I guess that's also something you have to love or not love, because I feel like if you don't love leveling up your skills and learning different skills and you're set in your ways, you might have
Bit of a
a harder
struggle.
time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think it matters what part of the business it is, it's always an evolving thing, but certainly any of the digital marketing platforms or social media, I mean, they're changing constantly, and, technology and AI, it's changing it even faster. We have to learn to love learning, I think.
Yeah. And even also like lately my videos haven't been, you can get that really discouraging effect where it's like you're working so hard to edit things and it's
Mm.
like five people are looking at your video and I'm like, forget it. Like it's so easy to get so burnt out and just say, I don't want to edit these videos anymore. It's so time consuming. I could be with my kids or I could be doing this or doing that. But you never know. Like you really need to keep, like I said, reiterating and just not getting down on anything or the seasons or the sales or all of that. You just have to kind of ride the storm as best you can.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Any tips that you might be able to share about not getting burnt out?
Ooh, yeah, I try to let, like I said, it not affect me as much if I'm not seeing a direct result. I think everyone, I guess, especially in this day and age, wants that direct, whether that be I worked out at the gym for 2 months and my pants still don't, you know what I mean? I don't think anything comes with any sort of,
It's not the
instant
instant gratification, yeah.
yeah, but we're in that world of just we're
Mm,
swiping and we're all very I guess fickle, so to speak.
mm,
But
true.
I try really hard to be like, okay, this is a season. We're gonna keep pushing. And also if you are slow, for example, that is when you can do other things. Like when we're cranking busy in summer, I can't make as much content. I can't do the things in I can't look at my website and go, let's do some CRO and I have zero time. Like I'm literally packing orders or, the amount of emails. I will get flooded. So trying to focus on, okay, I am slow right now and things aren't really going well, but this is the time. It's kind of like the whole build your summer body in winter. Do you know what I mean? Like it's slow, it's not the time, you're not going to the beach, but this is the time that you just put your head down and get done as much of the stuff that usually I hate to do,
Yes.
right? I hate it so much, but trying to focus on when I am busy and things are looking up, I don't even recognize the sales or I don't even recognize any sort of success because I'm just
It's
too I'm
busy.
flustered. Like I'm very flustered during that time, which also has its hards, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, pluses and minuses. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us about some of the PR that you've had. So, obviously, on your website, showcases some of the amazing TV stuff. A few of us saw you on Shark Tank. I actually can't remember which season that was now, though. But yeah, tell us how you went about getting that, because not easy always.
So I guess the first PR, so to speak, that we got was just someone who called me from the Gold Coast Bulletin, and this was right when I didn't even have the product; it was just a prototype, and
Oh,
it was a hashtag. She saw the hashtag Gold Coast on one of my Instagram posts, and the product it was just a photo, I think, of the prototype that we were dragging along, and she just called me. We were at dinner with the kids, and I was like, oh, what, let me step outside. And yeah, she wrote an article, and then after that Channel 7 and Channel 9 both also rang and said we'd like to run a story about sort of your product, and I'm thinking, oh my god, that's amazing.
yeah.
So and then
Never happened.
I kept in contact with the people that ran the story, all three of them. And then every time we, had something to say, or for example, we were doing a launch party when the stock really, arrived in Australia, then I just messaged them and I said, I'd love to have you come. This is a big deal for us. And they came again. So we had Channel 7 and Channel 9 come back for our official launch, which we launched at our local Stockland Shopping Center in
Yeah.
Burleigh, which is where we were working out of the parking lot in like a container, like a sweaty container. So just, yeah, I think just putting yourself out there and just sending the message. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? They can be
Yeah.
like, no,
No.
your product's not interesting, or whatever. Just,
Yeah.
yeah, send the message, send the email, hope for the best, follow up, always follow up. People get busy and it might not be that mean that they're not interested. And then Shark Tank, we are such fans of the show, especially being from the US. I watched that show with my parents. Like I love Shark Tank.
Yeah.
And so I saw that it was in Australia and I thought, ooh, and then I just kind of stalked them for when the brand new season with the new judges was out. And then we were on season 1 of the new season of Shark Tank.
Yeah. How was that experience? Must have been
Uh,
nerve-wracking, surely.
Very, very nerve-wracking. I don't like public speaking, especially when it's so important and we really wanted to walk away with a partner.
Mm.
So yeah, there was so much on the line, but definitely well worth, again, putting yourself out there, and it worked out. And we got an amazing partner, who's the founder of the Udi, David Fogarty. So that was
He's just up the road from me.
oh, he is, Natalie. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, very, very, very happy with the outcome. And yeah, we got very lucky with who we got. And it's really helped us, keep going and like I said, pushing out into the US market, which was really big for us.
And maybe helping with some other marketing strategies. I mean, I noticed on the website you've got other products and accessories as well that just kind of makes it a whole system to use together.
Yeah, we just try to think of things that we genuinely wanted or needed when our kids were little that we just didn't find were good quality or functional. So we make, for example, a custom picnic table that goes into our side storage racks that all the other ones that we use, like you put a strawberry down on it and it gets all disgusting and the board looks like, and they're expensive. Anyways, I bought like a $200 grazing table, like at this kitchen store, and it looked, you have to oil it, and it was just,
Yeah.
so I thought, well, how do you make one where it's food grade? You can still put food down it, but it doesn't look like crap within like 2 times using it.
Yeah.
So we made one that custom fits in our surf rack so we can go somewhere and have like a beautiful, picnic setup and not have to carry anything. We also just make really cool duffel bags where you can also put in the side storage racks. If you want to really load up the esky and have that with food and drinks, then you've still got a lot of storage on the side of your wagon for your towels, your change of clothing, that kind of thing. So all the accessories are sort of functional for enhancing the day out and genuinely making it an easier, more pleasant experience where you can, if you want to stay at the beach all day, we will allow you to do that without feeling stressed and chaotic. And then you just put the whole thing in the boot.
Yeah.
And then when you get home, you hose the thing off. It's pretty simple. Shove it in the garage. You can store all your accessories all in one and put the wagon cover over it. So we've tried to think of all the functionalities that we would want.
Yeah, super. So you're a few years down the track now, and you've obviously expanded and grown into the US. How are you feeling about your growth trajectory now? Is it exciting for you?
It is, obviously the market is a bit downturned at the moment, so that's really hard for all small businesses. So I'm not going to lie, it puts a lot of immense pressure, especially with how much our overheads are just to keep everything running. So, if we've got excess stock sitting in a 3PL in the United States, it's very expensive. So, and our product is very expensive just to keep in stock. So, it's a tricky time, especially when we are very seasonal in both countries. So we definitely put ourselves out there to say we actually use our wagon around like throughout the year. If you want to use it for Halloween, it's so bloody fun to drag the kids with all their trick-or-treating and they get tired, they want to sit down, or if you want to go on a bike ride and they don't want to ride their bike anymore, put the bike in the side storage rack and then pull them home. So we try to, really, I guess, market as best we can that once you get the product, although you think it's just for the summer months, you will find other really handy ways of using it over the winter. And all season long. So yeah, hoping for the best that, more word of mouth and, good reviews and people that, know it's a quality design product that they'll tell their friends. And yeah.
Definitely. And thankfully we're coming into some warmer weather now here in Australia.
Yes.
So I'm sure it will be great for you guys.
Yes.
also, I imagine that, in Australia having that seasonal uptick around Q4 when things generally go nuts anyway. So hopefully that's a good thing
Yes,
for
that's
you
when I'm
guys.
my chicken with my head cut off.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to ask you three final questions, if I may.
Yes.
Um, I'd love to start with what advice would you give yourself back when you were first starting, if you could go back and do that?
I mean, gosh, like you said, there's some good things about having a unique patented product. So I'm not going to knock that. I mean, there are huge advantages, like you said, being, for example, there aren't a lot of other products like ours in the Australian market in particular. And
Mm.
even in the US market, to get a standard patent is very, very difficult, like very difficult.
Yeah.
So happy about that. But with that being said, gosh, it is hard with shipping rates and they just keep getting worse and worse. So to anyone starting off, know your dimensions, know, like look into that ahead of time. We
Yeah.
are absolutely murdered with shipping and we offer free shipping to the customers. So
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
things like that you need to think about, does the customer want to pay shipping? What is your over? So it's all those things to think about up front. Margin is very important. We are always fighting against our margin. We can't get into retailers because they want too big of a percentage. And we can't offer those big sales like everybody else. And obviously, it's gotten worse and worse over the last few years of everyone's like 50% off. That
That's
will
nice.
never be us.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult, I think, for consumers, I guess, to see something like a 10% and go, oh, that's nothing. That's what I get for a mailing list, right? But for
Yeah.
us, that's $50 off the product. We already have, free shipping built in, and it is a lower margin product for us. So you kind of have to ask yourself in advance before starting your business, do I have the capacity or the drive to maybe look at a business that's more of a long term, I guess, a
You're
strategic plan,
investing.
or am I looking to maybe drop ship or, have a very easy scalable, business maybe. Again, pros and cons to both, but I think
Yeah.
really looking at it every way possible
Yeah.
is a good thing.
Certainly looking at the numbers and the margins, incredibly important for every
Yes.
business. Yeah.
Yes.
I'd love to ask you next, what's one of the best decisions? It's always hard to find just one, but that you've made so far.
Ooh, I think just going for it in the US market, I wasn't sure if we should do a Kickstarter or, how we were going to fund being able to have the product available within a short period of time. But we just kind of went for it and did a pre-order and hope for the best. And we, sold 500,000 in 30 days.
Oh,
So yeah. So I
well
think just
done.
taking a bit of a leap of faith. It doesn't mean though that after that initial launch, you're going to really have to put in those hard yards, but that really helped keep us afloat and
Mm,
be able to at least get out to a country who'd been asking us for so long to be there. So
mm,
you do have to take an incredible amount of risks. And if you're not a risk taker, it can be really difficult. Like my husband and he's not a risk taker. So this has
oh,
been
wow.
really hard.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, this is a very difficult business to be in when the chips are down and you're like, okay, I'm all on black. I'm just going to put them all on the, all on the table. So a business is a lot like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
How is he coping that
no, he goes
hasn't
through
gone
phases
great
of just
yet?
sheer mental breakdowns of just, because he's the responsible financial looking at the numbers guy. And
Yeah.
it can be really scary when every business, it's very normal for every business's balance to go right down to zero.
Like
And he's
that.
just
Mhm.
panicked, like absolutely panicked because we
Mhm.
don't have a financial backing. Sort of in this on our own.
Mm.
So it's very, very scary. And yeah, you've got to, I guess, know that going into business, it is a lot of risk taking.
But sometimes that leap of faith does pay off, hey?
Yeah, yeah. Some will be good. Some decisions will be good. Yeah.
What do you love about being a business owner?
I love the flexibility. So I love trying to be there for like, on a Wednesday afternoon if my kids are singing on stage. I always feel a sense of pride that I can be there for them, or both of us can sometimes be there for them. And I know that that's a luxury that a lot of people don't get the opportunity to do if you're, working for someone else in a, 9 to 5.
Mm.
And I love being able to work from wherever we are. So at the end of the year, we're going to go home to the US and work while we're there as well. Which is really nice. We get to be able to have that flexibility. So, but again, the amount of stress that comes with the flexibility,
I know.
it's you take the good with the bad, but that is my favorite part of being able to be flexible when I want to or work wherever I am, which is really nice.
Yeah, that is great. And, I'll echo that. Sometimes we do just really, really need to remind ourselves how good that flexibility is.
Yes. Yeah.
But, if we were in the 9 to 5, probably we would be complaining about something else that's equally
That's right.
frustrating.
It's
Mm.
all about perspective, right? So there's really, sometimes I think to myself, I'd love to clock out. I would
Yeah.
love to be more present. And that's another thing with my kids. I say that I can be there at the Wednesday assembly, but I also am doing this to them a lot. Like, what, 1 second, one
Mm.
second, let me finish. And that is hard for kids. They want your undivided, look at this, and a lot of times, mommy's working. Like when they get down for sleep at night,
Yeah.
I sometimes, depending on, like, I will be answering your messages with a blanket over my head in the dark with my earbud. I'm not kidding, like at all times.
Yeah.
And people want that constant, I've emailed, some people will email us and within 6 hours, they'll message on every platform. And
Oh,
you're
yeah,
like,
I
I have
remember that.
received your email. I'm coming.
Yeah.
I'm with you. So it's
Yeah.
that sense of, I guess, it never shuts off
You
can be
know.
really relentless sometimes. So
Yeah.
flexibility, great, but relentless nature of just the constant.
Yeah.
I am the live chat on the website in both countries. So if it is 7 a.m. in America, I am sleeping in my bed and I will wake up. And the first thing I do. You're not supposed to check your phone first thing when you wake up, but I'm like, and it'll be like, hello, 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 like on the live chat. And I'm like, I'm sleeping. Yeah, like I don't have an administrative assist, so
Oh,
it's hard.
that might need to come at some point. Hey,
That
uh,
would be lovely, yes.
I'll never forget my youngest is my daughter, and she wouldn't remember me doing anything other than working for myself. And when she was at school and primary school, but they had to have one of those headphone things so that when they were doing stuff on their iPad,
Yes.
it wasn't everyone else could hear it. But I just never forget this time I went into her bedroom and she had had the mouthpiece and she goes, "Sorry, mummy, I'm on a call." Like this.
Cute. Just picking it up.
Yeah, she's picking it up. She'd be really
Oh,
glad if she knew I told that story. She's nearly 14 now, so.
that's so cute.
Uh,
Uh,
so whereabouts can our listeners go to find out more about Burleigh Wagon? I'm sure plenty of people want to go check it out if they don't know it already.
So burleighwagon.com is our website, or .com.au here in Australia. Wherever you are, it'll divert you to there. And just on socials, so Instagram is Burleigh Wagon, Facebook, TikTok, all the places.
Yeah, sensational. Well, we'll link to those on our podcast show notes page. And just want to say a massive thank you for jumping on and sharing your story. It's really amazing.
It's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.